Hello and welcome to the next video in the Stitch and Forage series where we focus on the make section. Our main message in the make section is to encourage you to do any kind of making. We cover fabric and flowers and food, and that's because we think that everybody has the ability to be creative, whether that's with a sewing machine or in the kitchen or with the garden, but not all of us give the time to actually do something creative, but it's something that's really good for us. Summer is an amazing time to tap into our creative energy. There's so many amazing flavours knocking about, and the garden is full of colour. The trees are in full bloom, so we wanted to come up with a series of crafts that really celebrated some of that summer creativity. Wreaths are seeing a well-deserved revival at the moment, and I wanted to show you how I make wreaths, because I think it's a lovely way to celebrate the season and bring a little bit of what's happening outside indoors. So here are some of the materials that you're going to need to make a wreath. The first thing you're going to need is a wreath ring. You can get these really cheaply on eBay in a variety of sizes. Also useful is a pair of floral snips, again from eBay, but scissors will do. I also use some wire snips to cut my floral wire, and you'll also need some floral wire. Again, all of this is available on eBay. Basically my whole life is from eBay. So there's some of the sundries that you're going to need, and then in terms of fresh supplies, the first thing you're going to need is some sphagnum moss. Your florist for a bag of this stuff, or again I think even eBay sells it, or you can order some online from a floral flower supply shop. The next thing you're going to need are some flowers. So this here is a selection of stuff that I've nabbed from my garden and also got from my local florist. I've kept the colour palette quite neutral. I've gone for greens as my base with whites and hints of purple. So that's just one thing to bear in mind when you're choosing blooms. So the next thing we do is to gather some flowers together to create a mini posy. I've started with a couple of bits of garden greenery, and I'm going to layer in 2 to 3 blooms on top of it, nothing too big. Overall, you don't really want it more than about 6 inches, especially on a small wreath base. Once you're happy with your arrangement, and just some tips there, it is always better to go for odd numbers. So here there's 2 bits of greenery in the background, but there are 3 blooms on top of it. So that will make quite a pleasing arrangement. I'm now going to get my floral wire, and I'm going to wrap it around. Once you have your posy wrapped up in the wire, don't trim it, leave it as a continuous piece of wire. Place it down onto the wreath, and then wrap your wire around. And trim, and just bend it around the back. So we're going to do that again now with another posy of flowers. Moss is because it helps to retain moisture really well as looking really lovely in the background and being much better for the environment than Oasis. And one of the ways that you can help the flowers to stay perky is that when you put them into the moss, try and bury the stems into it, and then even put a bit of moss over it like this, and then wrap it up. And then that means that at the end, when we soak the wreath in some water, that the stems of flowers should be able to be getting a drink from the moss. As you can see, I'm laying the top of my mini posy on the stalks of the posy before it, which means that they're all facing the same way. This just helps the wreath to flow, and it also means that we're not leaving any gaps as well. So here is the finished wreath. I laid all of my posies down as I showed you, and I tucked the last one as close as possible to the first one. And then afterwards, if you look at it and you feel like it looks a bit uneven perhaps, you can just use one short piece of wire to attach single blooms where you feel like there's a gap. Just continue to make sure that all the blooms are facing in the same direction. That's the key.